Hiya, Weirdos. It's Thursday again. My name is Sarah, and I am joined, as always, by...
I'm Chris.
And I'm Mackenzie.
And this podcast is for Weirdos. I'm keeping this in for my own sanity. For those of you who don't know what's going on, there's a man on our floor. A grown man on our floor. In fact, he's the oldest person in the room. And so if I am looking over there...
You know, everybody look at him right now so we can all like...
Everyone get your eye line on Harrison real quick. This is what our cameras look like when we're looking at Harrison. Anyway.
What are we doing today?
We're doing another ghost tour review. Okay, so...
Sarah's birthday happened a couple weeks ago.
Right, I'm old. I am 30 years old.
And
birthday!
basically the entire month of March, we celebrated Sarah.
Yeah, something happened pretty much every weekend of March because all of my friends were kind of scattered about, so we had to do a bunch of different birthdays. But we did our tradition, and we went to the witchery, got a tarot reading.
We get ice cream.
We got ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
We went out to dinner. We went on a ghost tour. So I did not plan any of this because it was my birthday. So Chris and Mackenzie did all of the planning.
It was mostly Mackenzie.
I wanted to give you credit. You didn't have to not take it.
No, it's okay. I helped pick the tour we went on.
Yeah. So it was a different tour company, right?
Yeah, so I was going back through the... Chris has had a lot going on. I was going through tour listings, and I went back through I went to the tour company we did Chris and I's tour through. And the only other tour they had left was a like red light district tour or a general strand tour. And neither of those things are really what Sarah is into. I think sex work is an important piece of history to remember, but I don't need to go find the ghost of prostitutes. Like that's not not our thing.
And also
it's usually
knowing how like half of like we went on 2 tours with that company and one of them was not good.
Yeah.
It's 50-50. I would not trust them to handle that with any level of class
necessarily.
Yeah.
So if we ever were to do, just for like y'all's context, if we were to ever do a red light district tour, it's going to be in a place where they're already talking about that history in a kind and responsible way.
Right.
Not making like joking about that kind of history, because that industry is very rife with already people not caring a lot about those that choose to be in the sex work industry, though it is an industry that has made the world turn for a long time.
Forever.
Like it's sex work is in every bit of history that you ever think could exist in.
Did you know that there are penguin prostitutes?
Yes. We looked through those tours. I didn't see a tour on the company that we had gone through before that was going to meet what I thought Sarah's 30th birthday deserved. So I went to ghostcitytours.com, which is a company that has tours in lots of cities around the nation, like Savannah and New Orleans.
I've used their website as a source for the podcast before.
I think I have too.
For like a haunted location.
I'm pretty sure and my mom could probably correct me at some point, I think the ghost tour I went on in Savannah when I was a kid may have been through that company. Yeah. So they have really great reviews. So I went, okay, this has to be good. And so foreshadowing. So I am scrolling through their different
It has
tours.
to be good, right?
It's going to be great.
It's going to be a good
It's gonna
time,
be so
right?
good. So I'm scrolling through their tours, and they also have like a red light, they have another cemetery tour. Chris and I had talked about that cemetery tour, but there's one that is like actually scary.
Well, it's in a scary cemetery is the problem.
It's in the cemetery I'd never want to go in.
But
I'll go there during the day.
I went there during the day in my car and was like, I don't want to get out of my car.
That's fair.
So Chris and I couldn't narrow down exactly what cemetery that tour met in. So we went we're not gonna try it. So anyway, there was this other tour, and it was like the Ghosts of Galveston tour, and I went, oh, it goes to places we didn't necessarily talk about on our other tours. It's a slightly different part of the island. It's further down. So I was like, this will be really great. And it's, again, March is heavy tourist season, so we figured it wouldn't be a super big tour, and it wasn't.
It wasn't. It's the smallest one we went on,
It's
actually.
the smallest tour we've been on so far. But it was the price point was all the same. They were running a sale at the time that we did Sarah's tour, so I basically got one of our tickets free.
Yeah.
Because they were doing a 30% off deal at the time.
We also went after spring break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just for clarification.
We
there.
did it was the weekend after spring break.
Yeah.
For our area.
After both spring breaks.
Correct.
So
I was like,
Yeah, it was after spring break.
so we did that. So we go to the island, and I just go. So Chris and I land on that tour. I book the tickets, and I say, we're good. And Sarah goes, great.
Perfect.
And so then I went, we're getting closer, and Sarah texts us and goes, how are we going to the island? Because normally Sarah drives. And I went, it's Sarah's birthday.
Well, what I actually asked was, what's the plan for Saturday?
Yes, the general plan.
I was like, what time do we need to, do I need to be prepared to have people at my house?
So I will say this one started earlier than our other tours that we've been on.
Harrison just made a very good point in the corner over here. He said 30% off for your 30th birthday. Coincidence? I think not.
So that tour started at 7, which was an hour earlier than our other tours have started.
I know.
So I went, okay, we probably need to leave by 4.
so we can get dinner
because
and
it takes-
witchery and tarot. And
It takes 30 minutes to drive down to the island based on traffic and parking, and then making sure we were in enough time for the tarot, and then getting ice cream and eating and doing all of the things we needed to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Harrison agreed to drive us. I did not buy him a ghost tour ticket. He sat in the car while we were doing the ghost tour, but he was present.
If I look like I'm dissociating, it's because my dog is barking really loud, and I'm just praying you can't fucking hear it.
So the day comes. We are convening at Sarah's house. We are running late.
Yeah.
Because that inevitably, no matter what we try to do, something is
we
happening.
run a little late.
I will say it wasn't our fault.
No, it
For
wasn't.
the
But it's
first
okay.
time ever.
We're not going to get into why, but it was for once it was not our fault. I had pre-called the only reason we were in more of a timely manner is I had pre-called the Witchery to book this tour time based on the time the tarot time based on the time I thought we were leaving. So I had, because that guaranteed the booking.
Yeah.
Because when we went for my birthday, we didn't do that, and I did not get my tarot read.
Yeah, because they didn't have.
Because they didn't have a slot.
They didn't have a slot. Did they have a reader?
Yeah, they had
They
a
had a
reader.
reader.
I
They
couldn't
were
remember
just
if they
booked
had a
out.
reader. Okay.
Yeah, we got there, I think, just a little too late, and so
Yeah.
4 people had already signed up for that last hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So we did so anyway, then I have to call them while we're driving and go, hello, can I move to 5 p.m. because we are not going to make 4:30? And they were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we get to the Witchery. Sarah goes to get her reading. Christopher and I wander about the Witchery with Harrison while Sarah's in her reading. And
It was a great
I'll
reading.
let Sarah tell about her tarot.
I'm not going to tell the whole shit show of a reading. I mean, it wasn't a shit show. It was really, really good. I was just read for filth. This reader is fantastic.
She's wonderful.
I think it's the same. We think it's the same. Pretty sure it's the same one that Chris had for his. That
Yeah.
was also really profound and accurate.
yeah, and I don't think we ever updated on that. Everything that in that reading came true.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. In Chris's
Well,
birthday reading.
We had to. I will say this. We cut out a lot of you talking about it
Yeah.
in the episode because you asked me to, because you were talking specifically and using names. So,
Yeah.
but everything that she said might come to fruition for Chris, and was very specific about numbers and et cetera, happened.
Numbers and timing, and then it all happened.
I got my card. I got the Fool in my reading at a really crucial point in the reading, the way that she does her readings. She does this 9 card layout, and then also has for mine, I don't know if this is how she does it for everyone. Like the 9 card was like the main, like this is the pathway you're following. And then there were 3 cards, 1 representing me and 2 representing, like one was another person in my life, and then the other one was like how I interact with the world in relationship to the card that she had as like my signifier card. And then there was another card that fell out that she was like, you have this in your life. And I was like, I know exactly who that is. I was like, great. You're right. And she pulled some stuff. And, you know, sometimes tarot readers will be like, oh, I'm getting like, there is a man or a woman in your life that maybe sort of has this kind of energy. And you can be like, oh, yeah, my dog or whatever. Like, you can be like they'll give you very vague information. She said, I'm not going to get super into it, but she said, like, this specific card
means this,
and I am getting, like, 2 very specific keywords that it was like, oh, that means one specific thing. It wasn't, you maybe like the color green or possibly orange or yellow or maybe any color. And it's like, oh my God, I do like a color. It was very specific.
It's like this person that you know that likes...
Like, so for example, this is not what it was, but I'm going to say, for example, if this card was describing Chris, she would be like, oh, you have a person in your life that is like masculine, like it's a masculine energy, but there's like maybe a little bit of like fruitiness. Like maybe also they're a Jolly Rancher.
Damn.
Like, red
sorry.
for filth,
I
Christopher.
love you dearly. But like it was that level of specificity with, oh, it's this person.
Yeah.
Or like describing like Harrison's in the room. We're doing a really bad job of hiding our guest who's going to be here. Like if it was describing Harrison, it would be like, this is a person who you're like really close to, but you're not friends with them because you're friends with them. Like they came into your life adjacent to someone else, and now you are friends with this person. And I'd be like, Harrison, like that's why I know him. And you know, like Harrison is my friend-in-law, but no, he's not. He's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that level of specificity, and I was like, I know exactly who this card's fucking talking about.
Yep.
And then the rest of the reading was like, I could see that I am on the path that she was like laying out for me. And I was like, oh, really neat. And the Fool was there. And when she pulled the Fool, I was like, I fucking love that card. And she was like, do you know what it actually means? Or do you interpret it how most people interpret it incorrectly? And I was like, no, it's like, you have to like take this big leap of faith. And it's like, that's a scary thing to do because you don't know that you're going to land safe. But you have the like naive energy to just fucking do it. Like that's what that card is like you just have to trust that you're not gonna die when you jump off this cliff.
You just hope you say
your little dog is gonna catch you.
Or your frog.
Or your frog.
Or
Yeah.
I think the one that she had also had a dog in it. Anyway,
Your small animal companion.
Your little animal companion is gonna catch you at the bottom or something. And so it was a really good reading. And then afterwards, like we were talking about just like weird stuff because she could tell that I like kind of knew what was going on. Like none of the stuff that she said surprised me, and it was very clear like, oh, and also the card that she pulled for me was the Magician, and she was like, you do witchy shit? And I was like, you caught me.
Yeah. Red-handed.
You caught me.
Here I am.
And she was like, okay, so I can be a little more frank with you than I can with people who don't know.
And she can be a little esoteric.
I think I accidentally burped directly into the microphone.
I didn't even hear you, so it's fine.
It's
anyway,
like my sorry sneezes every time.
Yeah, but yeah, she was like, I can be a little bit more esoteric. I can like
really get into it.
Yeah, I don't need to speak
really be woo-woo.
Yeah, I don't need to speak like superficially about what this means. Like I can say spiritual,
say the
deep
woo-woo
down,
shit,
like what this means. So it was really good, and then she gave me a little spell. She lets everybody. It's behind me. I'm not gonna reach it. She lets everybody pick out. She has this like box of spells with ingredients. Don't worry about it. It's fine, Harrison.
Yeah, little spell baggies.
Little spell baggies, and she was like, it has the stuff in it that you need to like do the spell. But if you want to redo it, she like has the list so you can do it yourself. And the choices were happiness, money, and something else. I don't remember what the third one was.
Didn't both of you pick money?
No, Chris picked money. I picked happiness.
Oh,
because, and she was like, I always love when people pick that one because she was like, it feels so like selfless to pick that a little bit, because she was like, she's like, I get picking money, but she's like, it's just so delightful when people pick happiness, because it's like, I could use money, but I think happiness is more just like, manifesting positivity in your life. That's because if you manifest positivity, that'll manifest all positivity, including money.
Right.
Hopefully.
Was my thinking behind it. I haven't done it yet, but I have it. It was good vibes, good times. Also, she and her husband are starting to do ghosty stuff, and I then talked about our podcast and was like, we could go ghost-hunting together, and I could put on my podcast. She was like, you have a podcast? And I was like, yeah, it's called This Podcast is for Weirdos. You should listen to it. So hi, if you're a tarot reader from The Witchery and you're listening.
Hi, we're obsessed with you.
Hi, we're obsessed with you. Also, that was a really good reading.
We're your biggest fans.
We also got some fun books that we will probably be using for future research.
Oh, yeah.
Harrison found us the books. It was Go Team, Go Harrison.
And future.
He did not find me mine, but he did find it. Did I bring it in here?
You found the thing that I got.
I did find your book, yeah. Or
No,
your,
I
no,
didn't
you
get a
didn't buy
book.
it. Yes,
I got myself a candle because there's a spell that I want to do.
and then I found you a scrying mirror.
Yeah.
Which we're
Yeah.
not doing here.
We're not doing
We're not doing it here, but it's for other stuff that Chris is trying to do research on.
Yeah.
And we could use it elsewhere. We just don't want to use it in the house because we know there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah. And we don't want that interaction.
We don't need that energy.
Yeah, like
opening.
I don't want to see my dead brother's face in a scrying mirror.
I wouldn't mind seeing Mike.
Yeah, but
Right.
we can.
Mike
We've learned, as we'll talk about in a minute, that we can probably find Mike other places.
Yeah,
Mike's
Mike-
tied to us.
I
Yeah,
think Mike is ours.
I think Mike is tagging along with us, which I'm not mad about.
So we did the Witchery stuff. It was great. We went to Hey Mikey's, the ice cream place in Galveston. Shout out. That's like
Hell
right
yeah.
next to the,
It's
the Witchery.
if you're ever in Galveston, it is
Delicious.
It's homemade ice cream.
It's so
Like,
good.
you're not gonna
The
find those
flavors
flavors
are different every day you go.
hardly
Yeah.
anywhere else. They're delicious,
And it's real fucking good.
Super fucking tasty.
so you should go. But it's literally right next door to the Witchery.
Yeah.
So do both like we do every time.
Yep. Then we went out for dinner at my favorite Mexican restaurant, the Original Mexican Cafe in Galveston. It
Shout
is
out.
cheap as hell
And so much food.
fucking delicious and so much food. And then we
Wonderful
went to
bad
the
Mexican.
store.
So we met in front of
Trinity
Lutheran Church.
Episcopal.
Episcopal. I'm so sorry.
That's
Trinity
closer.
Episcopal Church.
Episcopal.
In Galveston, down on like 17th-ish or whatever. 27th? I don't remember.
It's 20 something.
Oh, 22nd, Kempner.
Yeah.
So anyway, Harrison drops us off, and there is, like, unlike other places where it's like, oh, you're going to meet at a pavilion or very clearly, like, right inside the gates of the cemetery. This is just, like, a street corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like
And
cross
Harrison,
streets.
there are no other cars, really, there's one other car when we pull up.
And we go,
And Harrison,
I wonder if that's our tour guide.
we went, I wonder if that's our tour guide, like, in the car that is in front of us. And Harrison goes, I'm not moving until I see another person. He's like, you guys can get out of the car and go wait, but, like, I'm not going to try, like, go anywhere. Because he had talked about going to run an errand. He's like, I'm not moving until I see you guys, like, leave with a tour group. Because it's downtown Galveston. It's getting dark. It's not...
Right.
Galveston is a pretty safe place, but the area we were in is not necessarily the safest part of town. So...
We were just far enough away from, like, the area where people go to be in a, like, kind of sketchy area once the sun goes down.
Yeah. So anyway... It was in fact our tour guide in front of us, and so he gets out first, and we go, okay, we can get out of the car now. So we go to the corner and then cross the street, and we check in. He just asks for the last name that the tickets are under, so I give him my name, and then another couple comes up,
Yep.
like pulls up behind, like parks behind Harrison, comes over. They're really loud.
They're very loud.
I think they pre-gamed a little bit.
They definitely had.
Probably.
Yeah.
They were a lot. They were in
I will say,
They
this
were
was
like
the best group
Yes.
on a tour
Oh, yeah.
that
Like,
we have had.
they were a lot. They were loud, but they were like, here's things that like we've been on. They had also been on other ghost tours, and we're like,
And they
okay,
were
I've
staying
heard
at the Tremont, or they
Yeah.
had stayed at the Tremont the night before.
They had stayed at the Tremont. They had stayed at
the Galvez.
The Galvez. Like they'd stayed at all of the different like haunted hotels
And like
on the island.
the woman in the couple was formerly local.
Yes.
And they lived out of town now. They lived like further out of town. I'm not going to say where these people fucking lived, but because they did say. And the husband had lived like in the Houston area, I think originally, and
Yeah.
so he was also familiar with the island, but
Yeah.
they don't live here anymore. So they were like coming down for a weekend.
And
Yeah.
then so it was the three of us, that couple, and then a family of 3. So it was a mom and dad and like a teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And they were not from town. Like they were here visiting.
Yeah.
They were on like I think it was the end of their spring break vacation.
Yeah. And they were also from
They're
from Texas, but
not
out of town.
they were from out of town.
Yeah.
So we all are meeting up, and everybody's like clearly excited to be doing this.
Everyone was ghosty.
Yeah.
Finally, we
finally
had a tour. Every single person there was ghosty.
Because like you could tell, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but like the teenage daughter was like on edge. Like you could tell she was like
spooked.
nervous. So the guide starts, and he says before we start that because one of the other people had asked a question about like, oh, how long have you been doing like this tour, and have you heard of these other like tours and stuff like that? Like he like somebody asks him like, how long have you been doing this? And the guy goes, I've been doing this for 3 weeks, but I've lived on the island for like
25 years,
20 something years, or like more than 10 years.
It was specifically the woman of the couple that was on the tour was asking, because she's like an avid Galveston ghost tour patron.
Yeah.
And so she was talking about one of the other companies on the island and being like, oh yeah, we used to do a tour like this with this girl. Have you ever met her? And he was like, I've only been doing this for 3 weeks.
And which should have been red flag number 1.
Hold on. There was also red flag number 2 in that same conversation, because that couple was like, I'm really glad this one didn't get canceled, because the last 3 times we tried to go on this one, it got canceled.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't even hear that.
I did hear that because they said it like 3 times.
Yeah, because they were
pretty like
they had opinions about it.
Well,
about
yeah.
how many times they tried to go on this tour.
So
I feel bad for them then.
Yeah.
So this guy had only been doing it for a couple of weeks, and he has this like, unlike our other tour guides, like that which just kind of check in on their phones or whatever, and then like put stuff away and start the tour. This guy, so we like go around the corner to this like where the gate is, like where if the church were open, you would like be able to go out in their garden kind of thing.
Yeah.
Their little courtyard.
Their little courtyard area.
Oh, I have my notes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Grab your notes.
So he starts, and he's doing kind of a general overview of like Galveston, I guess. And he starts with he's doing it. He is like mass death incidents, which I was like, this is an odd way to do this.
Yeah,
but
that's
okay.
what he wanted. He was like, we're gonna talk about the 3 mass deaths in
And I was
Galveston.
like, I guess. And he started with the colonization of Galveston and the mass death of the Karankawa Indians, which inhabited from Corpus Christi through Houston.
I'm not laughing at the mass death of a group of indigenous people. I'm laughing because in my notes it says pronunciation help.
Because he said he didn't say Karankawa. He said something worse.
He said
than
it
that.
worse than Karankawa.
And then
we all
also
went-
sounded like he was choking on his tongue.
Yeah.
Which, here's the thing. I have heard both Karankawa and Karankawa as
Yeah.
both correct pronunciations of that word.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how to say it because those people aren't alive anymore.
Like nobody.
We do not have an indigenous group that speaks the language that they spoke that we can ask, how do you say this word?
Right.
Yeah.
So both of those I have heard as like, these are acceptable pronunciations of it. He said like,
Not that.
he said all the right letters.
He said, I
don't
think
think
he said
so.
some of the right letters.
Yeah, it was like Karankawa. It was wild.
Poor Harrison got an aggressive debrief in the car when we were done with this thing.
So he was talking about that.
And he's trying to show us pictures at the same time.
So he had an iPad that was his like
Or like
thing.
some kind of tablet.
And my thing was, there is such a thing as too many pictures.
And he had too many.
And he had that.
Also, every single one of those pictures was bad.
Yeah.
And they were all blurry.
It was like you had
we
printed
said-
them,
we said it
taken
was
a
like-
picture, and then scanned them.
It was like he had taken the picture, he found the picture on Google, and
Yeah.
then instead of like going to the source, he just copy and pasted it out of the like Google image results so it was pixelated.
No. He took a picture of it with his phone.
Right. Printed that. Scanned that again with his phone, printed that, scanned that on a scanner, and then digitized it onto his iPad.
Correct.
Emailed it to himself,
Like-
sent it through Facebook Messenger 4 times.
Yep.
They were so pixelated and bad. Like, and most of them I was like, you can get like high res, like the 1900 storm pictures, which we'll
Yeah.
get to. Like, You can get high-res copies of those online for free
From the Rosenberg.
The Rosenberg.
from the Rosenberg. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then in that same spot, we're standing in the same spot.
We have not moved yet.
We've not moved.
We haven't moved.
And
he's not talking about the building that we're standing
Nope.
next
No,
to.
he's just
he
talking
doesn't tell us anything about the church.
Nope.
Then he talks about, and I need you to say it because I'm going to say it the way he said it, and it's wrong. Somebody else say it the right way because I can only hear it in my head.
I have it in. Do you want me to say it correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he's talking about. So he does the Native American story, and then he does the story of Cabeza de Vaca, which he says as
Cabeza de Vaca?
Kabizi.
de Vica.
De Vaca.
He says
And-
day correctly.
And the gentleman of
Ish.
the couple is Hispanic. And he
Yeah.
goes, he finally goes, and he's saying this name like 3 or 4 times.
And
Like,
he
all
goes,
of us are looking
he goes,
at all-
what are you saying? And then he says it slower, still Cabeza de Vica.
And then he goes, oh,
Oh,
you mean Cabeza de Vaca? And,
Yeah,
and
and-
like says it fully correct. And the guy was,
Everyone goes, oh!
You know, I was like, is he talking about Cabeza? And like, I
Like,
was like
This
looking
man's
at like
lived in Galveston
Mackenzie, and
for
I
at
was
least
like,
20 years.
like, the 3 of us are side-eyeing each other like a motherfucker.
And literally,
like,
my notes
we're
say,
not subtle about it
My,
either.
my first 2 notes say he was new, and then pronunciation help with a question mark, and then I have Karankawa and Cabeza de Vaca. Which, here's the thing, you can say it like a white man, that's fine. Say,
Yeah.
say Cabeza de Vaca or Cabeza de Vaca. Like, that's
Sure.
fine. At least
That's
pronounce the
acceptable.
vowels correctly.
That's acceptable.
So anyway-
like we are in Texas.
Right,
All
say all the
he-
vowels. Because Kabizi? It
Kabizi,
is an A.
Kabizi, Daviki, Davika.
Kabizi
Fuck.
Davidi.
it truly, like, so we stand there for like 5-ish minutes, and he tells us not a single, he just talks
He doesn't
about,
tell us a single ghost story.
he just
No,
tells
ghost
us
stories.
about
We go
just
through-
how many people, like, he's like, all these people died. Yeah, we know shit.
Like, he goes
Great.
through the Native Americans getting slaughtered on the west end of the island. He goes through the Cabeza de Vaca story. He goes through all of the Jean Lafitte story.
He
and-
also mixes up Cabeza de Vaca and La Salle,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, he did also talk about LaSalle,
and like crossed those stories and was like,
who he called LaSalle.
LaSalle.
And then he talks about Jean Lafitte, and he doesn't tell. There are so many cool Galveston ghost stories about Jean Lafitte, and he doesn't tell a single one.
Like, there's
He doesn't
so
even talk
many
about
good
the
ones.
dogs.
He doesn't even talk about the
Which
fucking
is,
dogs.
which still happens.
Yeah.
The dogs still happen.
For those listening, if you don't know the Jean Lafitte dogs story, when he left, so he had this like pack of dogs that were his dogs on the island, and when he abandoned the island ahead of the Texans, and burned the island down, he fucked off and he left all of his dogs, and the dogs all died on the island. Rip to those dogs,
Oh,
just
poor
of like
dogs.
probably old age.
You know,
It's
yeah,
been
like
a couple
being
100
dogs.
years. And now, before natural disasters, specifically before hurricanes, people will see like this pack of black dogs
Like
running
running
around
amok.
on the
Yeah.
island, and they'll call animal control and be like, "Hey, there's this pack of dogs. Like, there's so many of them." And animal control will be like, "Yeah," and hang up because they're like,
the ghosts.
we're gonna get there, and they're not gonna be any fucking dogs. They're ghosts." And like, people saw them before Ike. People saw them before Harvey. Like, before hurricanes, these ghost dogs get really active, and they've kind of become a bit of, and they're also black dogs, so it's part of that like black dog omen. And that still happens. And he didn't tell that. It's so short. I'm done with the story now. He could have told that story.
He could have.
And then he jumps wildly and goes to the weird, like the 1900 storm, but in a bad way. Like, he did not do that story justice.
He did not do a single story justice.
He did not do a good job. And my thing is, you can be new and still tell a good story. Because when I was a tour guide at the place that I used to work at the George Ranch, when I first started doing tours, I was confident enough that I didn't need the script when I first started having to do house tours.
Yeah.
However, I kept the script in my pocket,
just in
and
case.
I warned people when they came in. I was like, "Hey, I'm really new. I've only been doing tours for like a couple of days. I have my script. If I need to check it, that's why I'm doing that. Like, I'm just double checking that I'm giving you all of the information, right?" And those people, every single time, they were like, "You did such a good job. You didn't even," like, because most of the time I didn't need to check it. They were like, "You didn't even need to check it." Or if I did, they were like, if somebody asked me a question and I was like, I don't know 100%, let me check.
Yeah.
And they were like, I got compliments because I was confident enough in my own ability, but also confident enough to tell them, like, I don't actually know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if he had done that, like if he had a script on his iPad and he was like, hey, I'm still really new, because if he's been doing it for 3 weeks, they don't do that tour every day.
Exactly.
He's been doing it for, like, he's probably done it 4 times in 3 weeks. If he had said, like, I'm really new, I have my script on my iPad, I'm probably going to be double checking it to make sure that I'm telling you accurate
The right stories at
information.
the right locations.
Right. I would have been so much, like, more okay with this tour
Oh, exactly.
than I am, because
I would have been much more forgiving.
Right. Being new is no excuse to give a shitty tour.
Yeah.
So then we're like walking down the street and he's kind of talking, but like, I don't know.
He also, like, we're walking by, like, stores, and he goes, anybody a fan of the Astros? There's some Astros shoes in this window of this store, and, like,
It was
points
like
them out.
so weird.
And I went, boo.
He also stopped our group in the middle of the street.
middle of the street to show pictures of the 1900 storm, not of a building we were near.
Right.
Like, again, if it was like, oh, this building that we're walking up to was used as a morgue in the 1900 storm, which pick a building on Strand, it probably was. That would have been fine.
Exactly.
But it wasn't.
And then we get all the way to Strand. It is now 8:30 on a Saturday night. And it is so loud.
And he
And
does
busy.
not have, like, on our ghost tour in the cemetery, she had the little headset with the chest speaker. So that way she didn't have to yell, because she was an older lady. And it made it where we could hear her really clearly. He
Exactly.
had nothing, and he was incredibly quiet.
He was incredibly quiet and
He was whispering.
seemed
for most of the
very
tour.
shy.
He was shy and timid, and, like, I get taking a customer service job to break that, but maybe go work at, like, Target, not a ghost tour.
And we like stopped at the Tremont house, and he didn't even tell any of the actual ghost stories related to.
No, he talked.
He was like,
It was a history tour, and then at the end he would go like, and some people say that like he would tell this person lived here and then died, and some people say they still are there.
Yep.
Like that was the ghost stories we got.
we were like, bruh.
I was like, homie, I've stayed in the Tremont house. It's fucking haunted. There's a billion ghost stories you can say about that building. Like the whole
Talk about the little wet kid feet that
talk
show
about
up.
the wet kid feet. Talk about like the whole is there 4 floors? So it's
Unsure.
Yes.
I think it's 4.
It's 4.
The whole 3rd floor is like when we would come down, I told my mom, I was like, you have to ask for a room on 2. We cannot sleep on the 3rd floor. Like it's that haunted.
Yeah.
That once I did the
Wild.
research in it, I was like, we're not sleeping on that floor.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, and like we went into the lobby of the Tremont because the third family had never even been inside of it, so they had no idea like what the context of the building was.
Right. And
Yeah.
so he was like, yeah, we can go in. And we just like went again
And stood in the lobby.
and stood in the lobby. And he didn't tell us any stories.
Nope.
You know what?
We just
I
hung
did?
out in there. And
'Cause
one of the
she-
girls on the tour went to go pee.
Well,
Yep.
so like the mom of that 3-person family was like, because the Tremont house has moved locations 3 times. It's and
Right.
the place that it's in now is its 3rd location.
Right.
And its 3rd
And
building.
the building that it's in right now, before it was the Tremont house, was a warehouse.
Yeah. So
That's
anyway,
why some of the rooms have random poles in the middle of them.
yeah, and so the mom was like, "Well, how is it so haunted if it's not in the original location that all of these other things happened in?"
Right.
And he gave her a non-answer. And so when we went inside, I went up to her and I was like, "Listen, the reason that this hotel can be as haunted with spirits of previous iterations of the
Previous
same hotel
locations,
and from different locations is because when you keep the same name of a location and the same intent of the building, a lot of times those energies will travel, especially if you're reusing any amount of furniture or decor or anything that you can salvage or staff, like anything that is going to move with you from location to location can transfer the energy from location to location. That's why if you're talking about the first Tremont house that had Civil War soldiers or like the one that burned down and like all of these different things, how could you have those ghosts follow you from place to place? That's how.
Right.
And so she was
And
like,
also,
she was
it's
like,
not like it moved to a different city.
no, it's all in
Right.
the same city.
And it's
just
also only like 6 blocks.
Like it didn't move. It's not like it
that
moved
far.
5 miles. It moved within a square mile every time.
It didn't move that much.
So anyway, I was able to give her that answer that she
And
was
you know what
looking for.
Mackenzie didn't do?
I forgot
she
to
didn't
post-
pitch our goddamn podcast
Well,
to this woman.
I was trying to give her an answer, and that was not in the forefront of my.
And when I walked up, I was about to be like, and if you want to know why she knows that, it's because we have a podcast.
And then
but then the
fucking
tour guide walked up.
showed up behind me like a vulture.
He was like,
Yeah.
So anyway, we end up on the Strand. It is crowded as hell on the Strand. It is
He talks
so
about-
loud.
You want to tell the story that you had to tell because he didn't talk about it?
Yeah, so there's a restaurant that is on the Strand called Yaga's. They have good pizza.
Their food's pretty fucking good.
They
got-
also do like live music. It's
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
popular restaurant in Galveston.
Yeah,
Island.
especially with like people our age. Like it's a very popular
Yeah.
spot to hang out. But in this building in 1900, it printed the newspaper, and on the second floor of this building was the printing press. And as the 1900 storm rolled in towards Galveston, that printing press, because it's a heavy piece of fucking machinery, fell from the second floor through to the first floor and crushed somebody to death.
And that was the first death
Of the 1900 storm.
And this man talked at length about the building next to Yaga's, but had nothing to say about that. And he was like so focused on the 1900 storm, and he didn't tell that story.
Yeah.
Right. Which is crazy. And then also like couldn't name like Isaac. Couldn't like
Also, he told Isaac's story wrong.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, the 1900 storm, which we might do, like
We'll probably do an episode on it.
about that and like the ghosts of Galveston
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
why it's so haunted. That may be like a fourth episode where we all bring
Especially now
something
that
to the
we've now
table.
done a tour for each of our birthdays, it would be like a culmination wrap up because we'll probably
Right.
change the birthday thing for the upcoming birthday cycle.
Right, but that that storm killed between 6,000 and 12,000 people. There is
Yep.
no actual number because a bunch of people just never came back to Galveston, so we aren't sure if they died or if they left
Just
or
left.
what. Like it's an unknown number. There was a man who was a meteorologist at the time who was warning everybody, every condition is right, there's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
And he was warning people, and everyone was like, that's not going to happen. A storm. So on the tour, the guy was saying, and this guy kept saying, like, a storm will never hit Galveston. And it's like, no, that's
Yeah.
what everyone in Galveston was saying.
Well, so
And that like the city wanted to build the seawall before
They didn't.
They
no,
did not want to do that.
Wrong.
so
like this, I have a book in this house called Isaac's Storm.
I
That is
also own that
about,
book.
I love that book. It is about this man, Isaac, who was trying to warn everybody. And the day that it hit
was early.
but he was running around on the beach to the houses on what is now Seawall and a couple of blocks in, going like, you need to leave, you need to get to high
Leave.
ground, you need to get off the island, it is coming, everyone's going to fucking die, like it's gonna be bad.
So a lot of what happened with the 1900 storm is we don't have the weather trackers that we have today. We don't have NOAA that's going out ahead of time. But it's early meteorological. He still knew a storm was coming. They thought the storm was going to turn, and it
There was also
didn't.
information coming in from Cuba, and
Yes.
Cuba's meteorologists being like, "There's a storm coming, and y'all need to get out now."
And,
Right.
And,
And
other,
then Noah was like,
other meteorological,
Cuba.
they were like, oh, it's going to turn. It's not going to matter. It's going to fizzle out. And Isaac was like, I don't think it is.
"No, yeah,
And
The-
he's
and it was what we would now classify as a Category 5 hurricane.
like, it
Yeah.
was a giant storm.
the entirety
especially
of the
for the
island was
time.
underwater.
devastating."
And would still be a big storm today.
I've read a book. It's my favorite historical fiction novel because it is like truly based mostly in history. It's just the characters are fictional. Called Darkwater Rising.
Ooh.
And it's I have it. It's great. You should both read it. It's about a family
It sounds
that
familiar. I might have read it.
that survives the 1900 storm.
Sick.
And it's based on the journals of a little tiny girl who was like 4 when the storm hit.
Oh my god.
But then the author, she wrote it about like an older kid experiencing it. He was like a teenager, but he like from this kid's perspective talks about being on Broadway, like walking on
Yeah.
Broadway and watching the Gulf meet the harbor
Yeah.
on Broadway. Like
Yeah.
those two bits of water
Which
touching.
They don't.
happened.
Which happened. Like
I
they
mean,
shouldn't. There's an island in the way, but they met, and then the water continuing to rise on Broadway, and because at that point Broadway was the highest point on the island.
Yeah.
and being higher and higher and higher. And like this fucker is like, but Isaac said there wasn't going to be a
Well,
storm.
and
And
the
then
other
suddenly he's running around on the day of saying there is a storm, and everyone's like, boy who cried wolf, we're not going to do anything. And it's like, that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
Well, and the other thing is like
Shut up.
our other two guides told the 1900 storm story in such a more respectful way.
Oh, yeah.
And accurate.
And
even our tour guide,
accurately.
who we didn't like,
Was
did a good
very
job.
accurate
Yeah.
history-wise. So anyway, he's like, we're on the Strand. He's talking about the 1900 storm. We finally move where there's not cars blaring party music and a man with a snake that I was horribly uncomfortable
Multiple
by.
snakes. No,
Two-
there were 6 snakes.
I was so
counted.
uncomfortable.
And he was, the worst part was...
He was with another tour.
No.
Yeah.
No,
he
he
wasn't with
wasn't.
a tour. He was just wandering around with snakes.
Ugh.
The worst part was he was doing it intentionally to freak people out.
Yes.
He was walking up behind people into that like sensory perception where you can tell there's somebody behind you. So you would turn and look and see a man holding like 30 snakes.
Like,
I'm like,
I
I see
recognized
him, and I am
multiple
making
different species.
I'm making eye contact with Sarah's shoulder. Like I'm doing everything in my power to not
Right,
like,
and I had seen him over here, and I saw him come up behind me, so I was like, I'm not gonna give this guy what he wants. Like he's trying to scare people.
yeah.
I'm not. Sorry, I did not consent to that. I'm not
You know,
letting
it's
you do this.
really fucking shitty.
Yeah, and if I had done what I wanted to do, I would have turned around and punched him. But I did not want to get an assault and battery on my record for punching a drunk man covered in snakes.
Yeah.
I also didn't want to upset the snakes, like those poor snakes.
Yeah.
I
Because
didn't want to punch that
So
man and make
loud.
him drop and hurt the snakes.
they're like,
oh,
very
so-
specifically, he had a Florida king snake on him,
I was so
which is
uncomfortable.
fine. It's a fine kind of snake to keep. However, king snakes eat other snakes.
Right.
He should not have been holding that snake anywhere near
Other snakes.
other snakes, especially smaller snakes. And he had a couple corn snakes, and he had a
I don't want to talk about it.
he had a red tail
Mackenzie
python.
Mackenzie doesn't like snakes. Me and Chris are both like pro snake, but
I love
I'm not
snakes.
anti-snake.
I didn't say you're anti-snake.
I'm
You just
anti.
don't like snakes.
No.
Anti that guy's snakes.
No. We owned a snake. We used to have a
Okay.
pet snake. I'm anti-snakes, just out in public. That is not a contained
Right.
like. Oh,
He was
you're
not being
gonna.
a responsible snake owner.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I was having issues with because I was like, so help me if this drunk man tries to put a snake on me, I'm gonna flip shit because I'm already uncomfortable where we are.
And
Yeah.
our tour guide, he came over to talk to our tour guide, and all our tour guide did was go, "Okay, buddy." Like he didn't say like, "You need to go away. I'm hosting a tour." Like he didn't do anything to
Like stop
diffuse the situation
Ugh.
or get
Right.
that guy away from the tour.
And that guy eventually was like, "Oh, y'all are doing something,"
And, like,
then
wandered off.
No, he didn't wander off. He just sat down on the stoop of the building right next to us.
So anyway, we finally move on, and we get down
also,
to
at this point, we've walked, I think, 12 blocks.
yeah, we've walked a lot,
Yeah.
and we get
We're hoofing it, and
It
I'm
was a huge
injured.
Loop.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
Chris is a fucking completely torn ACL, and we're
walking.
running.
And we get down to a quieter part of Strand, and he's talking about like the buildings, and again giving very generic, not great history about what happened in the buildings. And on that area of the Strand, there is a pole on the backside of one of these buildings, or on the side, not the backside, but like the side of the building, down another block
On the Henley building.
on
Yeah.
the Henley building that has a chunk taken out because it was hit by a cannonball.
Yeah.
And
in the Civil War.
in the Civil War, and they chose not to replace
That
the chunk.
pillar.
And he was like,
Yeah, that happened last week,
The
actually.
two couples,
the cannonball.
Oh.
It was last week.
the couple was like, what about the cannonball? Like they asked about it, and he's like, oh, I thought it got like somebody said it wasn't there anymore, and they were like, I don't think, and we were like, I don't think that's true, and he's like, well, we can go over there if you want to go over there, and lo and behold, there was the fucking pillar with the
With
chunk taken
the chunk
out.
taken out. Like the cannonball isn't there.
The
but there's a big
cannonball-
old chunk taken out of
The,
the pillar.
the cannonball is at the Rosenberg.
Yeah.
So
It's at the Rosenberg
Which
Library.
so that's what he was told, was that the cannonball is at the Rosenberg,
And-
and he heard it as the pillar is at the Rosenberg.
There is also a chunk of the pillar. Like
Right.
the chunk of the pillar that
That's
is missing,
gone. Right.
that didn't get like obliterated,
Right.
is at the Rosenberg with the cannonball.
Right.
but he was taking
heard
it.
that as, oh no, the pillars got fixed.
And they fixed it.
And they put the whole pillar in the Rosenberg.
And then we get to
Can you imagine?
We
Rosenberg's not
walk
that big.
back up, and we get to St. Mary's Cathedral or Catholic Church. Basilica? What is it?
Basilica.
Basilica. I was like, there's a fancy word.
It's a
St. Mary's
basilica.
Basilica. And he's telling us one, that church is beautiful. They did a bunch of work on it.
so
It's so
stunning.
pretty. We get there, and he uses that opportunity to tell us about the St. Mary's Orphanage, which was not in that spot. It
No,
was
it's,
not.
it
It's where
never
Walmart
was.
would
It's about
be.
40 blocks
The other direction.
the direction down the
Right. It's not even near
Near.
the second location, which is now
No.
Galveston College.
Right.
Right. So he's taking the opportunity to then tell us about St. Mary's Orphanage, which was done by nuns that were from this church, but it was not at the church location.
No, it's
Right.
where the Walmart
It's where
is
the Walmart
at
is.
61st.
And he does that to tell us about the orphans that died in the storm
And the yellow fever.
and the yellow fever epidemic and why you see kids in Walmart. Which he was like, some people say that. And Sarah's like, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, and what the guy of the couple was like, "Oh, I've seen the videos," and I was like, "I don't need to see the videos. I've
I was there.
experienced it."
Yeah. And so then he just like finishes there and is like, that's all I have for you.
And then we had to
walk back to the church, the Trinity Church.
which was like 6 blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it wasn't that many blocks away.
It was like 4.
It was like 2.5 or 3. So Harrison, to the point where Harrison was like, do I need to like meet you to get you? So as we're walking back as a group, because all of our cars are over by the church, we pass.
Hold on. Because I told another story to the
Oh,
little
that's right.
family
We
again.
like chatted for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
On the walk back, we
Yeah,
were
on
like,
the
"Let's chit chat."
I was like, I have another story about the church.
Oh, right, about Mary.
Yeah, about Mary on the church. So on top of like their little dome, they have a spire and they have a big statue of Mary. Up
It's a
on-
beautiful statue.
It's
So pretty. And
gorgeous.
they have her lit up, and she's just
Yeah, and so like at night you can see her, and she's very cool. I think she has like a gold star or like a gold crown or
Also,
something.
for people that don't know the island, St. Mary's just got redone. Like they redid some of the roof work and
Yeah,
different
they
things
did
like that.
some really nice
and
restoration.
they redid some of the stained glass. I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
but
So they
not
did
the
some
big one-
they
not
did
the
some
main big one.
restoration work kind of over the course. It was around the time of the pandemic happening. It had started before the pandemic
I
happened.
think it had started in about 2018.
Yeah, it was a multi-phase restoration project.
And they
So in the very beginning of 2020, so like
January, or February.
January, February of 2019 or 2020, they took that statue of Mary off the top of the building
to do restoration work.
to do restoration on her and the roof. And
then COVID.
then immediately COVID happened.
So people here.
Don't take her down ever again.
Yeah, the rule is nobody is allowed to touch her again. She has to stay on the top of the
If you
church,
have
or
to
the
do-
world will
If
end.
you have to do restoration on her,
it has to be
do
up
it on
there.
the roof.
Do it on the roof. You got to stand up there.
Because people in the area were like, "This is why we've had a world and like a
And
a
if
pandemic."
you didn't know that Catholics were superstitious,
Now you do.
Now you do.
People that don't even
If you
like
somehow
aren't
didn't
even
know-
Catholic were like, "Put Mary back on the church now."
You know,
Yeah.
I was in the put her back right now.
It's like
Well-
I'm not. You're of Catholic origin.
You're
I'm
a recovering Catholic.
I'm a
That
recovering
counts.
Catholic. Yeah, I
That
guess it counts.
It
The
would be like
superstition is in you. It's
Oh yeah,
in
no,
would be like-
bones.
it's in my bones.
It would
that
be
and
like-
the guilt. They're
It's
in
not
there.
in my ligaments though.
No, those are broken.
it would be like Sarah being like, "Put Mary back." Like,
yeah, like people of my ilk were like, put her back on the church right now. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me.
So
Yeah.
help me.
Because like, belief is belief. Like that. Put it back.
No, I'm 100% a firm believer of like, oh, if I can pinpoint a thing that happened and then a bad thing happened, that other thing is not allowed to ever happen again, even
Right.
if there isn't actually any correlation.
Yeah, it's like removing that statue did not cause the pandemic. However,
it did happen, and then COVID happened, which means it can never happen again.
right.
Like, I'm the kind of person who I wore a beanie to a test once, and I got 100 on this test. I have to wear this beanie every test in
yeah.
college. And then I did. And then I took one Tom class and got a 20, and so I went, well, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the nature of the beanie. That was the nature of Tom classes.
After Chris tells the story of Mary, and we're kind of like wandering back to the cars.
I should have brought that paper.
You should
It's
have brought
okay.
that
I have
paper.
I have the picture on my phone. It'll get posted.
Tell your tale, man.
Christopher, we're walking, and Chris goes,
So we're walking at the front of the group. Chris stops, takes a couple of steps back, looks.
and we were
And
like,
we went, what happened? And he goes,
I saw a shadow figure.
and we went,
huh?
So
and I was like, in the car, you're going to tell us all of what you just saw.
So we were just walking, and because ADHD, I'm just looking around and I'm looking at things and I'm looking into buildings that I like haven't walked by before. And so I looked down this hallway behind some like glass doors.
It is 9:30 p.m. at this
Yeah,
point.
and so like
Right.
all the lights are off. The only light
It has
that is
like a red emergency light.
yeah, there's a red emergency light like down a hall that is like shining down a hall, but like the hall that we were looking down like is perpendicular to the hall where the emergency light is. And I saw like a humanoid shadow figure. And I was like, oh, well, that could have just been like one of our shadows like up against that wall. And so I like looped back around to like look at it again. And I was like, well, I'm standing here and I see my reflection in the glass, but I no longer see that shadow.
And the point of like, oh, it could just be us is because when we were at the Opera House, we were seeing that like down the hallway reflection of our own shadows.
One of the women on the tour of the couple was like, I thought I just saw a ghost, but it was just you.
Yeah.
Like, to me, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so like
she saw my reflection in the door, but the way
was
that
like,
the door reflected it because there was a light behind it, it looked like I was like in the hallway.
Right.
And she was like, what the fuck? And then I moved, and she was like, oh, it's you.
Yeah.
So like we had that happen, which is
Yeah.
why Chris did a double check to be like, it probably was just
could have
me,
just been a reflection.
but like,
Yeah.
what if?
And like most, pretty much all the time, like I will double check, be like, I'm gonna try and recreate that immediately,
Like when I
before
saw the thing-
anything changes.
Like when I saw the thing on our tour, the shitty tour,
Yeah.
in that basement, and I was like, "Hey, can you come walk behind me?" Because
Yeah.
I thought I just saw somebody. Like I thought it was a reflection, but it was
Yeah.
not.
And so it was just an odd, like almost like a Hat Man type shape, but it had no hat,
Damn,
but just like a very
he's coming
tall,
for you because you talked about
dark, like peeking around a corner.
it, like the shadow figure that I saw at
Yeah.
the ranch. Crazy,
Yeah,
except for mine was child-sized.
yeah. You know, it was pretty tall. Like it was like
Isn't that building?
I thought it was a school, but looking at like Google Maps, it is not a school. Like there's
do you
like a
remember what
law
it is?
office
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
like a law enforcement. It's something to do with police.
Is it like
and
lawyer
the-
or law?
No,
Like cops.
Lawyers.
Okay.
Hold on.
And then there, yeah, it was like it's in the note
I'm
that
only.
I
I'm
put
pulling
on
up.
Discord.
I'm just pulling the picture up because
Okay.
it has everything in it.
And there's also like a therapist's office in
Okay,
there.
so it's like an office building. Like,
Yeah.
it's offices.
It's offices.
It's
office
in
space.
Discord, yeah.
Yeah, it should be in Discord. I don't remember what channel I
It's
put
in
it
Raw.
in. Is it?
I think so.
Okay.
So
Here it is.
But then when I got home, I got out a piece of printer paper and I drew exactly.
yeah, we were like the second you get home, draw it.
Exactly what I saw because it was hallway, like maybe 5 or 6 steps up, and then like more hallway that like ended in a perpendicular hallway that like it ends. It's a
It
dead
wa-
end. You can go right or left.
It is the office buildings of the Galveston Criminal Defense and DWI attorneys
Okay, so it is
and
attorneys.
LE Mental Health.
Okay, so yeah, it's just like an office space that's
Yeah.
been leased out by a lawyer and a therapist.
Right, like those are at least the 2 businesses that list their location is right there.
Okay.
There could be other things in that building.
Right. It's an office space in that
But-
little section.
Walking by it, I was like, I think that's a school.
It did look very like school-esque. Like
Yeah,
the way
and-
that it's like a 1-story flat roofed building.
Yeah, and I may have just been mixing it up with the building that's on the other side of the church because we were in like eye line of the church.
Yeah, we can
at
see
that
the
point.
church.
The
and
church that we
which
started
does
at
have
Trinity.
which does have the school building, the Trinity
Yeah.
Episcopal School.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that is what I was thinking.
I think
of.
so also.
Okay.
So anyway, we get back. Like we're inside of the church. The tour guide is just like, thanks again. Doesn't ask to be tipped.
Jumps in his car.
Jumps
and
in his
leaves.
car and takes off. Because like I was like, Sarah and I were like, okay, like if he asks for tips, like do we still tip him? Like what do we do?
Well,
'Cause-
so
you know-
Mackenzie was like, I have like a 20 in cash, and I was like, we're not giving him $20.
Well, no, Mackenzie was like, "Do we tip him?" And I said, "No," and like sped off.
yeah, Chris
Right.
was like, absolutely
I was
not.
like,
and then
if
Sarah
he
and I
asks,
are like,
I'll
debating.
give him $5 on like Venmo, but we're not giving him a 20.
No.
Because I was like, that's what I have in cash.
Right. I was like, I will give him a $5 Venmo tip. But
And
I'm
then
not.
we get-
I tipped our good tour guide $5.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not tipping a bad tour guide more than that.
So
No.
Harrison sees us, starts the car. And
We get in and we go, that sucked.
and Harrison's like, was it that bad? And we like angrily debrief him in the car.
So I read him my notes, which I will now read my whole notes just to the podcast. I already said he was new, pronunciation help. We then got weirdly too many pictures, question mark.
Yep.
Like, I don't need to see pictures. Take me to the places that these are.
And
Yeah.
tell me fucking stories.
stopped in the middle of the road. Why? Strand too busy on Saturday with no speaker or PA.
Yeah.
Like, it was way too loud. Too big of a loop with too few stops. We walked, I think we did the math, it was like 10, 20, like 10, 15
We
blocks.
walked a solid mile plus.
Because we walked from 20...
Second.
No, we walked all the way to 25th.
Yeah, but from like 20.
And then we walked all the way back to 21st.
22nd...
Down.
22nd down.
Across.
Across the 25th.
Back to 21st.
Down to Strand. Across Strand.
To 21st.
20... Yeah, to 21st from 25th.
And then up. And then back.
And then back. So, like, a lot. And then I said, not enough ghost stories, and the guests had better stories than he did.
Yeah.
Like, I will say, what made that tour not a, like, I'm leaving halfway through.
Because we thought about it.
Was the fact that the other people on it were so engaged and, like, fun to talk to.
Yeah.
I will say the dad of the mom, dad, little girl group did leave the tour at one point and go buy a beer for he and his wife.
It was very funny because like he just kind of like disappeared for a second.
And the tour guide was like, "Oh, we lost somebody," and she goes, "Don't worry, he'll be right back. Like he'll catch up."
Yeah, he'll
and
be
the
right
tour
back.
guide was like, "Oh, are you sure?" And she was like, "Yeah. He just went to go grab something."
Yeah.
And he comes back and he like taps her and he goes, "I got you a beer." And then they both had Miller Lights.
Yeah. And then
rest of
they
the
also
tour.
scared the shit out of their daughter, which was
really
very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he did,
we
but like we were walking.
No, we were at
Was it when
next
we
to
were-
Hubcap.
Was it when we were peeking into the building
trolley
next to Hubcap?
station? We were peeking into the trolley station where the windows are dark, but if you look inside, you can see the like old
next to Hubcap.
the cars that are in there, and
The
they
VW
were
buses that were
the
in there.
VW buses,
Sick.
and because she was basically scared to like go look in the window.
Her mom was like, "You should look in there. You should look in there." And we were all like, "We'll do it too. We'll look in. We'll look in with you."
I looked at her and I was like, I will go look at it with you if you
Because
want
I
me to
think
look.
she was scared she was gonna look in and somebody was gonna like scare her.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I went over there. Boom.
And so Chris did
against
it,
the
and then
glass.
he was like, "Oh no, you need to look in here." And I was like, "What is it?" And he was like, "Just look. There's some cool cars." And I was like, "Okay." So I like put my hands up to the glass, and then she did that.
Her
dad
dad
fucking grabbed her.
Poor girl.
She did a little yell, and it was cracked us up.
So
I was like,
anyway,
what a cute little family.
they were very fun.
But like that building, super haunted.
Didn't talk about anything.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like, he
like-
didn't talk about the trolley
Like,
station
we're-
at all,
so-
and that building is so haunted.
And what kept happening was we would be like, "Oh, we're going in this area. He's going to talk about this,"
and he
then he
never
would not.
did.
Didn't.
Like when we were walking over by Yaga's, you were like, "Oh, he's going to talk about the printing press," and then he talked about the building next to that for like an hour. It felt like, and then he was like, "Okay, moving on."
And like he didn't talk about Haunted Mayfield Mansion, which is like a haunted, like a haunt
in
location.
a haunted building.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it is a like people jump out and scare you haunt.
Yes.
And also actually haunted.
Did I tell you guys about my traumatizing experience with?
I've heard it. Yeah,
I think you have.
with the zombie man.
Yeah.
like that.
and
But
then
yeah,
he also talked about the water fountains so many times.
right. Yeah, he talked about the fountains that.
Mr. Rosenberg put up for like man and beast. And he was like, it's so everybody could have access to water.
I was like, and we were like,
And
"Don't
then
drink
I
out of
looked
them
at the
now."
rest of the tour. I was like, it's no longer potable water. Do not put that in your mouth.
Yeah, don't drink that.
I gave this tour, I think like a 2 or a
We didn't
3.
save it in the group chat. Otherwise, I
Oh, we
could
should've.
see what
I think I gave it a 0.
No, you
You
gave it like a 1. You gave it a 2, and I gave it like a 2.5 because the group was fun.
Yeah.
Like all 2.5 stars were for the people who went on the tour with us.
Yeah, no, like I was so stuck on like, I hate this guy. This guy's giving a bad tour.
But I think we did say like,
If I were
If
to
it was a-
review it online for the tour company, it would be one of those, I give this 1 star, I wish I could give you 0.
yeah.
but what
1
I
star,
would say,
no goblins.
What I would say is I would do that tour again if I could if I could call and be like, who is giving this
Yeah,
tour?
if I could get a different tour guide.
And they would say, not this guy. And I'd be like, great, thank you. I will book this again. Because
Right.
I think the intention of that tour, if done correctly,
Would be
a great tour. I think we had a really shitty tour guide.
right.
You know, and I know another tour like that one exists because I've taken it digitally by the person who wrote it
But
because she was in a couple of my classes.
Oh,
yeah,
Jenna.
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I'd be willing to find her company and actually like be like, no, we know that at least you do your actual historical research.
Right.
Your thought?
It's not related. It's just really funny.
Okay.
In the like, I wish I could give this 0 stars. So my dad's dad, my papa.
Yeah.
Whenever he would have really shitty service at like a diner or something, he would give them a penny for a tip and write on the receipt, "This is half a penny more than you deserve." But hey, pennies don't exist anymore. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's also fucking dead. But I wonder if he's here. Anyway, I have a trigger object that we could definitely like summon him.
That'd
But
be
any whoosies, yeah, like we said, the 1 star, wish I could give you 0. That made me think of this is half a penny more than you deserve.
That's Sarah's birthday adventure, which I was so upset because I was really trying.
So here's the thing.
I
had a good time.
I know, but like Chris and I's intention was to make this a big deal. It was Sarah's 30th birthday. We were gonna make this like a thing. It was gonna be
fun,
we were gonna
cool
have fun. We were gonna do all these things, and then it was so like. Everything else was so good, and the tour itself was so shitty, and I was so upset about it. Like
I got my steps in.
I was upset because I like at the end of the day, I'm the one that picked the tour.
Don't move your microphone while you're talking.
I'm sorry.
We were hoofing it.
Like I was so upset because I really did a ton of research to be like, okay, we did this company. What are our other options? What is it that's gonna meet? Nothing meets our standard unless we're gonna write it ourselves, TBH. But like, what's gonna like hopefully meet like the standard that we've set so far, at least be on par with even the other shitty tour that we had.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what my hope was, and then somehow
I'm gonna re-rate. So if we're rating them all in comparison, this one's a 0. That one's a 5. The cemetery is a 10. Like that's
Like-
the scale now.
like
You know,
it's
I
just
like that tour was now the first tour we went on is now solidly mid.
like I would
Yeah,
I
I'd
would
say
have
4.
I
but-
would have been happier with another mid tour
Yeah.
than I will say that tour with that tour guide was not worth $25.
Nope.
No.
Like not at all.
That was a waste, unfortunately.
I will say
We
But
had,
Sarah
it
had
was-
fun.
we made fun of we made it fun ourselves,
Correct.
but like it
and
itself was a bad
here's
tour.
my thing. Even going on a bad tour still gives us content.
Yeah, we still have
So
content.
who the fuck cares?
Because-
here's the thing. I don't want you to feel bad because I did have a good time.
I
Even though the
know.
tour sucked, I had a good time because we met some interesting people.
Yeah.
We got to tell some fun ghost stories and like show that we're all super knowledgeable and cool.
Yeah.
And that couple was really fun to talk to. The family was really fun to talk to because they were like into spooky stuff but didn't have any personal spooky experiences. They were like, I like going on ghost tour spooky, not I have personally seen a ghost spooky. And so they were like lapping up the stories that we were telling. The couple was having a good time talking to us. Like that made that tour super fun for me.
Yeah.
It was a long goddamn walk. I think that even with a good tour guide, that loop is too big.
But I don't know that he did the loop correctly. That's the thing.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like I would be when Christopher is well again. I would be interested in like again retaking that tour with a different guide and seeing if the walk is the same, or if it doesn't feel as bad because somebody else does the stops correctly and you're not just hoofing it because the man talked for 30.5 seconds, and then we were just moving on.
Fair. Because the loop was odd to me.
It was not a normal loop, and we were going down streets that like I would not personally as a business owner want to take people down. Like we were going through back streets that are like not super safe.
Especially getting from St. Mary's back to Trinity, I was like,
why did you not walk
This
us
is
back
odd.
to Trinity?
Yeah.
anyway, the tour itself, 0 out of 5. Would not recommend to my worst enemy. The birthday as a whole, 10 out of 10. Great time. Had a wonderful time. I think that's everything that you need to know about the ghost tour that we went on for my birthday. Tune in next week for something.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.